All right, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. I'm Peter Skaggs with Lighthouse, and I want to, today our agenda, our goal is to help you decide whether or not you're going to self-manage your lifestyle asset or you're going to hire a third-party property manager. Candidly, this is the linchpin decision. We want you to be confident in which option you choose, knowing that you can make a decision to change down the road as you progress, as you learn. But ultimately it is the linchpin because it's going to decide whether or not you have a lifestyle asset or a lifestyle headache. All right, so today we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of both options. But before we do that, I want to highlight three quick things here. First, in case you don't know, a third-party property manager is somebody you hire. It's an individual or a company that you hire to manage your property for you. They're going to help you with the day-to-day operation of the property. They're going to handle marketing. They're going to handle calendaring and cleaning and maintenance, checking people in, checking people out. They're going to handle billing, bookkeeping. They're going to handle all of those kinds of tasks, getting the, lining things up. And so that's what a third-party property manager is. It's really nice. We'll get into the pros and cons of that. It's nice to have that as a possible option so that it can take it off your plate. Second, I want you to know that I believe I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this because I use both, or I do both right now. I have hired third-party property managers to manage a lot of my assets, and I love my property managers. They're awesome. They take a lot off my plate. They make my life a lot easier. They handle a lot of the headaches. But I also have chosen to self-manage a number of my properties, including my first lifestyle asset that we bought in Hawaii. I'm in Utah, it's in Hawaii, but yet we chose to self-manage it. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of time to figure it out, and ultimately we have it dialed in, and that was a good decision for us over the long term. Third, and finally, I want you to know that we offer what we call lifestyle asset management. It's not quite property management. We hope that it takes the best of both worlds and combines them. So I'll highlight a little bit of that at the end of the video. I don't want this to be a sales video about our lifestyle asset management service, but I do want you to be aware of that and also be aware that I have a little bit of a bias there, as far as which option's the right option. So just want to make sure that that's clear. Again, I use both. I love both. I see the pros and cons to both, and so I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible here in this video, but I want you to understand that there is a compensation if you use our service, and so just go into that knowing that, eyes wide open. All right, so let's jump in. So today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both third-party property management and self-management. We're going to start with third-party property management. So the pros. The number one pro in my experience is that I kind of almost alluded to it earlier, that it makes that a third-party property manager can make owning a lifestyle asset much more passive, meaning much more hands-off. They can handle the marketing. They can handle the nightly pricing adjustments and figuring out what the market demands. They can handle all the guest questions and calendaring across the different online travel agencies. They can handle the coordination of cleaning and maintenance in between guests. And, if you have same day, if you have a guest checking out and a new guest checking in on the same day, they can make sure that everything's taken care of in between those quick turns. They can handle the checking in and checking out of guests, and that's awesome. They make it really a lot more passive, which is wonderful. The other thing that they make more passive is the fact that they are usually available 24/7, 365. I'm in Utah. Hawaii is where our first lifestyle asset is about 4 hours behind us time-wise during daylight savings. And so that 4 hours can make things a little tricky. We've had guests come in, their flights get in at 8 or 9 at night in Hawaii, which is midnight, 1 a.m. here, and they're getting to our condo at 2 a.m. in the morning Utah time, and if they have any sort of issue on getting into the to the unit, or have questions about how, where things are or whatnot as they're getting situated, that makes for a tough evening. We hate to have somebody locked outside because we're asleep at 2 a.m. That's what we tend to do at 2 a.m. And so that is a really, really nice feature, is that property management, third-party property management can offer 24/7, 365. Another thing is, a lot of our guests come during the holidays. We get big bumps during the holidays, and last thing I want to do is spend time with my answering questions of my guests when I want to be with my family during the holidays. So again, property management can make things a little bit more passive. The other thing that they do, number two benefit, is that they provide a lot of expertise. They have managed hundreds and probably thousands of properties. They've figured out and solved lots and lots of problems. They know what they're doing, and so there's some seasoned expertise that comes with property management, third-party property management. So that's a really nice thing. When it comes to knowing whether or not certain things are issues, or how to respond to noise concerns, or how to respond to quick maintenance concerns, or whatever it may be. It's nice to have that expertise. Also, they provide boots on the ground. That's the number three benefit. They provide boots on the ground. So I'm in Utah. My first property was in Hawaii, and so it's a little tricky for me. I can't just drive there and fix an HVAC issue or handle a plumbing issue or whatever it might be. So having somebody there who can go over and meet with the guest, see what the problem is, and address it in real time immediately, that is a very, very nice benefit. That's a pro to third-party property management. Another one is technology. Technology can be expensive especially when around managing these lifestyle assets. And so the great thing about this is, when you hire a third-party property management, you're getting a manager, you're getting an economy of scale. The property manager is not only using that technology for your property, but they're using it for dozens and possibly hundreds of other clients of theirs. And so as a result of that, I'm not paying the full price of that software. I'm paying a fraction, a very small fraction of the cost for that technology. So they can provide a better experience for a lot of my guests, because they have great technology that I typically couldn't afford or don't want to pay the price for. Also, another benefit of hiring third-party property management is that they can help with all the reporting. They know what the state and state and federal requirements are for reporting and compliance. They know what the HOA and or local regulations are. They can handle a lot of the reporting and the compliance. They can help you with bookkeeping and the tax filings and all of those kinds of things that you may not necessarily want to figure out. And finally, I mentioned this a little earlier, but a big one is marketing. Candidly, when you own a lifestyle asset, you become a small business owner. It's a side hustle. It is a business if you want the asset piece. Some people buy their lifestyle asset more for the lifestyle, and that's great. That's fine. But if you want it to generate revenue for you, if you want income coming in because from your lifestyle asset, you need to be marketing that. You need to fill. They say putting heads in beds, right? You need to fill up your calendar with guests, and they can help you with the marketing and the promotions and some of the ideas. They know what's happening in and around the area that might bring guests in, and when to raise nightly rates, when to reduce them. They're really, really good at that. Some of the cons to third-party property management are that they can be expensive. That's probably the number one complaint I hear when I talk to people about hiring third-party property management. Usually they're somewhere around 25 to 40% of your nightly bookings, your nightly rate. So usually you take out the cleaning fees and the OTA fees, some of the fees that you as the owner don't realize. But then at the top, you're paying them 25 to 40%. And so that can be expensive. A lot of times that cuts really deeply into your bottom line profits. So you want to be aware of that. Another con to using third-party property management is a lack of control over who stays. When they are in control, their motive is to fill your calendar. And sometimes the way they fill the calendar is opening it up to locals or opening it up to a one-night guest. A single night guest, they will, they'll discount, and now you have discount shoppers coming in. And there's just a different mentality when you do that. Locals are not going to treat the property typically, in my experience, the same way that an out-of-towner is going to treat your property. A one-night guest usually means that they're there for a party, they're there for some quick event, and again, they're not there for as a family vacationing or as a work thing. They're just gonna, it's a different mentality, it's a different type of guest. And so you want to talk about that with your third-party property manager. You want to. It is a negative. They are incentivized to fill your calendar, and oftentimes they do that by bringing in guests that you may not otherwise want in your home. So another con is that a lot of times my guests feel like they're a number. That they are just one of hundreds of other guests. And that's because property managers are coordinating lots of check-ins and check-outs on a daily basis. And so that absolutely makes sense. It is hard to build rapport. It's harder sometimes to build that repeat clientele when you have a property manager who in essence approaches your guests as just another guest, just a number, just a revenue stream. So that is a negative to third-party property management. It's something that not most third-party property managers haven't figured out how to provide that kind of personal touch. So you want to be aware of that. Also, so the other con is you're going to also sometimes feel like a number, that you're going to be one of hundreds of properties. Your property is one of hundreds of properties that they're managing. You're one of hundreds of owners that they are working with. That they're partnered with, and so you can also feel like a number. We love our home in Hawaii. It is means a lot to us, and so for us to feel like a number to our property manager would be frustrating, and so that is something that you want to be aware of. That you're just one of many. Now they'll treat you well. They're incentivized to treat you well and to keep your business there. But ultimately, some of the automations and some of the, sometimes the customer service and things are just a little bit lacking. Finally, this is a big one, and one that a lot of people don't consider that you should consider. A con to third-party property management is that they're going to set up the listing on what we call OTAs, online travel agencies. That's Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, all of these websites. They're the ones that set that profile up. And they will usually do it through their property management software. And as a result of that, they have a standard stock description usually of the property. They're going to have photos that are typical, and their listings are going to look the same across each and every property. They're usually going to have the same picture chronology. They're going to usually have a very similar description. They're going to have all of these things that they found to work for most of their clients, but it may not work for your property, or it may only be 70% good enough. And so they're going to have control of your listing. Now you might be able to influence them and tell them what the description should read or what pictures you want, but ultimately they're going to default to their standards, to what they've found to work. Now with that also, if down the road you decide to self-manage, or you want to change property management companies, or you want to work with a lifestyle asset manager like us, then you likely lose all of the reviews on your property, all of the history, all of those guests that have checked in over the years. All of that contact information goes away. That stays with the third-party property manager. And so you are starting over. So you use a property manager for a year, and you decide that you want to change or you want to self-manage, you're starting anew. you're going to lose your 30 reviews. You're going to lose all of those 30, 40, 50 guests that you had come in over the year, their contact information. So now you're going to have to start over from scratch. So be aware of that. That's a big one that a lot of people don't consider when it comes to third-party property management. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Now I want to talk about self-management. I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much here, but it would stand that the pros to hiring a third-party property management are cons for self-management, and cons for self-management are pros for third-party. Hopefully that makes sense, that the pros for one are the cons for the other, and so there is going to be a little bit of repetition, but I believe there's value in visiting the pros and cons for self-management. So I want to go through those here with you. All right, so let's start with the pros. So there tends to be a higher cash-on-cash return. And this happens for a few reasons. One, you don't have that 25 to 40% property management fee coming out off the top. Two, you are a lot more in tune with what's happening. If you're managing one property and they're managing hundreds of properties, you can be a lot more in tune with the macro, the macro and the micro changings of what's happening with your property. We saw things coming when like COVID was starting to happen. We saw things coming a lot quicker than some of my property managers who are communicating with me. So we were able to adjust and make changes and start solving those problems a lot quicker. So we can have a higher cash-on-cash return. If cash flow is important to you, third-party property management may not be the right solution. Self-management may make more sense for you. Another is that you have a little more flexibility and control. I just a couple weeks ago, we had blocked out about a month to go use our Hawaii property this summer, and we just realized that that month was just going to be tough. We had been doing we had gone on a number of other trips, campouts, and other things, and work was kind of stacking up, and other things, other pressures were stacking up, son's basketball tournaments, etc. And I was just happened to be talking to a very, very good friend of mine, and he mentioned that he wanted to go to Kauai. And I said, hey, when are you thinking of going? He says, he told me August this. And I looked, and it was the month that I was blocked out. And, ran that by my wife. And so we were able to fit them into the week, a week of the time that we would have otherwise been blocked out or planned on using it. We were able to do that on the fly, last minute. It's nice to have that flexibility and control. We also have told potential guests no. When we look at their reviews and other things from other Airbnb stays that they've had or other OTA stays we've had, we've looked at their reviews and we've said no, or they have asked for exceptions and we've said no. So we have flexibility, we have control over our listing. We're a lot more in tune. Really our ears are to the ground on our property. The other thing the other pro to doing self-management is that our marketing is unique from any other property. We feel like we've got a great description. We're trying to tell a story and just build, some desire to stay in our place. Our pictures are top notch. We spent extra money to hire a great photographer, and that's important. And then sometimes we will promote our property. Other times we're happy that, it's been going well. And so we're happy to kind of let it sit for a moment and see if we can get a last minute guest at a higher booking price. So instead of dropping our prices, this is kind of back to flexibility and control. Instead of dropping prices when we have vacancies, a lot of times we'll keep our prices, or sometimes we'll even go a little higher because we know that there's a lack of inventory in Kauai where our property is. And so sometimes you pick up those last minute guests at a premium instead of at a discount. And we have the control to do that. Also, this is kind of a weird one, but when you self-manage, you are the owner of the results. You cannot, the buck stops with you. When you hire third-party property management, I've noticed that they are quick to blame, the weather, quick to blame the pandemic, quick to blame maintenance people, quick to blame the guests, quick to blame. They're always passing the buck because they want to keep the relationship between you and them positive. And so they want you to be mad at other things. And so they're always deflecting the blame. And so when you self-manage, there is no deflection. The weather is an issue, but you have to solve it. Maintenance delays are an issue, but you have to solve it. Guests are ornery or sometimes annoying. You have to deal with it. And so I actually like that. Some people don't deal well with that. Some people, that's not for them. But I like the fact that I am the owner of the results. And I have a scoreboard. And that scoreboard is my bank account. I know if I'm making money that I'm doing a good job of owning the results and managing the results. And so my scoreboard is my bottom line. I know if my place is booked, if I'm making money, if things are moving fairly smoothly, then I am doing a good job. And there's nobody else to blame but me. And vice versa. If I'm not making money, if my calendar's not full, if everything seems to be bumpy and issues, it's me. And it only is me. I've got to go fix things. I've got to improve my processes. Finally, this was kind of a cherry on top. It was unexpected when we chose to self-manage our Hawaii property. And that is that we have developed some great relationships with people. We've had guests come. We've owned our Hawaii property for 6 years now, as of the recording of this. And we've had guests come back year over year over year. They love our place. And we've developed great friendships with them. And that was not expected, but it's a really nice little perk. It's fun to get some of those text exchanges. We love your place. We can't believe how beautiful this island is, how amazing this location is, all of these things. And that's just a really cool byproduct of being a self-manager versus them communicating that to the third-party property manager. You may never hear those things, or a few of them may come over, but they're filtered or delayed. So anyway, it's been that kind of cherry on top for self-management. Now, some of the cons of self-management are that people are going to drive you crazy at times, and it blows my mind. We have somebody go book on Airbnb as an example, and they'll book a few months in advance, and right away we're communicating with them, that hey, as things get closer, we'll let you know. All the details and stuff, but they'll start pinging you right away 3 months in advance of them coming out, wanting all sorts of information. We'll tell people literally in a text, in an email, in our Airbnb description, also in a contract that we have them sign. We tell people 4, 5, 6, 7 times what time check-in is and what time check-out is, and yet it never fails. There's inevitably always somebody who asks, when is check-in? When is check-out? How do I do this again? We tell them, hey, there's a punch code, you punch in and that'll unlock the door. And, how do I get in? Where's the key? And so it blows my mind. People will drive you crazy at times. They're just not respectful of your time. They don't read instructions. They don't follow instructions. Sometimes they're going to abuse your property too. We have been upset a few times. It hasn't happened a lot, but we've been upset a few times at how poorly people treat our property. We love our property, and so that is sometimes a little maddening. So something to be aware of when you're self-managing. When a third-party manager manages your property, a lot of those things never get to you, whether or not they're abusing your property or the questions and the irritants that you might otherwise have. So that's something to be aware of. Also, again, we talked about this as a pro to third party, and it's worth highlighting again is that technology, nowadays the property management technology is really, really slick. It's, it offers some really cool functionality, automation, features And we are limited on that technology when we self-manage because we just don't have the benefit of the economy of scale. So it's a lot more manual, and that goes back to the passivity of third-party property management versus self-management, less passive. Problem solving is another con. Some people are really good at this, some are not. I think I'm somewhere in between. You're just going to have problems. You're going to have client or guests who don't know how to operate any sort of technology whatsoever. They can't handle a thermostat. They don't know how to operate a TV or remote control. They don't know how to turn on a microwave, whatever it is, the coffee maker. And you got to solve problems on the fly, quick. You got to be on your toes, because ultimately, if you think about it from the guest's perspective, this is maybe their one vacation that year. They're taking time off and away from work. They're sacrificing lots of dollars and lots of time doing other things to be there in your place, to have a special, memorable experience. And then to have a little problem, an issue arise, that can be it's magnified for them because of the dollars and the time, the sacrifices they're making to be there on vacation. And so you want to be aware of that. And so you need to be able to solve problems on the fly. You need to be able to handle things, be nimble and be able to handle things on your toes. So something to be aware of. Some people are good at this, some are not. So know thyself. Be aware of if that's you or not. Maybe third-party property management or another option might be a good solution if you're not good at that. And then finally, I saved this one for last, but it is the number one concern, the number one con to self-management, and that is simply that it can be time-consuming. As mentioned before, third-party property management can make it more passive. Self-management can be more time-consuming. You will spend time at all hours of the day answering questions. You're going to have to address, inevitable maintenance issues. You're going to have to answer those silly questions on how to use things and where things are located. They're going to ask you for all sorts of recommendations on where to eat and other things, and they're going to do it at all hours of the day and night. And so you just have to be available. You have to be available, and so it's something to be aware of. And so self-management is not a bad thing. And candidly, in a lot of ways, you can automate that, or you can have it. You can address it up front to avoid it in the going forward. But ultimately, it's something to be aware of. So. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Spent about 30 minutes there outlining the pros and cons of third-party management versus self-management. Hopefully there's a couple nuggets that you took away from that to consider. Now, our goal at Lighthouse is to reduce or eliminate some of those cons of third-party property management and to also pass on some of the pros to self-management. So our lifestyle asset management, we try to address some of those things. So we want to keep the expense low for you. And so we're not going to take on all of, at least at this time, we're not taking on all of the management issues, but we'll handle all the calendaring, the coordination of cleaning. We're going to handle 80%. Occasionally there's going to be a maintenance issue, and we will give you some recommendations, but ultimately it might be up to you to manage, repairing the roof or getting an HVAC person in. We will help you, but ultimately it's going to be on you to do that. And the reason we do that is so that we can keep our costs lower. And so we want to make sure that you have the bulk of the profitability when it comes to your property, that you are the beneficiary of taking on that risk, taking on that liability of owning that property. Also, we want to, we are going to be incentivized by booking you 100%, and you want that too. But we're not going to do that at the sacrifice of allowing locals or one-night stays, or we want to make sure we understand what your goals are, what is the ideal guest for you, and then we're going to keep that keep that ideal guest in mind as we make decisions on who we're allowing to stay in your property, etc. We're gonna try to be strategic about filling your calendar as much as possible without sacrificing quality for quantity. we're going to let you build rapport with your guests. You're going to have a portal. You're going to be able to text and exchange communication with your guests if you want to. And so that's cool. We want you to be able to build that rapport. And with that goes to one of the cons as well of third-party property management. We're going to let you own your listing. They're your reviews. It's your listing. These are your guests. And ultimately, if you were to leave our service, we would make sure you have the guest list so you can market to them in the future, so that they're coming as repeat guests over and over and over again, even if you're not using our service. So I want you to be aware of that. And then again, we're going to make sure, we want you to really have a great return on your investment. That's our goal, as good a return as you can expect on your investment. We're going to provide more flexibility and control, and allow you to help us in what marketing you want to be done, have some ownership in those results. We want to coordinate with you versus taking it over from you. And so if that's something you'd be interested in, again, we want to take on about 80% of the load, but have you involved in some of the 20%. And and if you're willing to do that, we will share the profitability more with you. You'll get much more on the bottom line, and so you'll be benefited and rewarded for that. Again, we'll make it a lot more passive, but we also make sure that you're benefiting from owning that liability, that asset. So hopefully that was helpful. That's the end of this video. And I want to just emphasize again that both options are phenomenal. Both options can be a good fit for you. You really just got to understand them so that you can have confidence in which decision you make, and ultimately you can adjust as you progress. So my name is Peter Skaggs. I'm with Lighthouse, and I'm grateful for the time that you've spent with me today. Have a blessed day.